Off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have minutes that I read, and did I read? So motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second. 527 and 624.
Right. Doug did the 27th, and I did the 24th. Yep. All set? Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Deb second.
Second, I'm sorry. Okay, first order of business, small project, NACC 153, 265 Granville Lane.
Okay, this is a small project for a fence installation. There is a potential vernal pool out there. So it's a 50-foot no disturb, not a 25. And the fence would be 50 feet, 53 feet at the closest point.
Any questions, Jeff?
What kind of fence are you looking to put in?
I don't know.
Is the applicant here?
It says vinyl fence.
Where does it say?
Vinyl, on the recommendations. It says
Oh,
vinyl
okay.
fence.
Okay. Jim, is, in just inspecting the site, general inspection, anything, is there anything out of the ordinary, anything, stockpiles or anything like that?
I didn't report anything. Usually we'll note that kind of stuff if there's
Yeah.
something going on.
Looks pretty straightforward to me.
Okay.
No questions?
Doug?
No questions.
Deb?
Okay, so Heidi recommended that wetland markers be put at the 50-foot no disturbance zone on the fence. So that will be included in the order of conditions?
Yep,
Okay, and also a post-construction inspection?
yep.
Any pre?
No, because they won't be doing any erosion control or anything. We'd have to come see.
Okay. Thank you.
More questions? Motion?
I move that we consider NACC number 153, 265 Granville Lane as a section 4.4 bylaw H, type H, small project.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
I also move that we approve NACC 153 for 265 Granville Lane with the conditions of requiring wetland markers on the fence and post-construction inspection.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Okay. Next one is in RDA, 84 Candlestick Road.
Read or wait for reading now?
We'll waive the reading.
Have anybody here on
As long as there are any butters for Granville Lane. Excuse me, Candlestick Road.
These are butter notification cards. How we want to look at some of the photos of the wall. Just pull up the plan here. No, just, well, yeah, actually, I don't know if I have one of the list. Okay, you can keep your receipt, that is okay. Thanks. Okay, so the proposal here, there was an order of conditions for the retaining wall at the back of this property. You see it in the photos. It has a certificate of compliance. And the house has an existing deck. You know, as far as we can tell, it's the original deck to the house. It was permitted and built back when the subdivision was built, which must have predated the bylaw since it's in the 50. They would like to expand the deck just a few feet to make it more usable, but in order, it's mostly cantilevered out already, but to cantilever it even farther, they have to move the footings. First, they have to bring the footings up to code, and they have to move the footings out 14 inches. They're already non-conforming, so I don't have any opposition to moving them 14 inches. It's all within existing lawn and all under the existing deck.
This project looks familiar. Is there an order of conditions on this property
Yeah,
right
I
now?
just said that, but for the
Oh.
wall, for the retaining wall, and it has a certificate of compliance.
Oh, it does, okay. No other questions?
No questions.
There is a waiver request for moving the footings, so we should approve that first.
I make a motion that we grant the waiver for 84 Candlestick Road.
Motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
And then it would just be
Need a
to
motion?
approve as a negative determination number 3 and 6 with pre- and post-construction inspections, and they already have wetland markers.
Someone, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. All set, thank you.
All set? We'll write it up, you'll get something saying you were issued a negative determination, and then you can get your building permit. Negative is a positive, yep.
Negatives are positive.
That's plus the air conditioner, so.
Thank you.
Good night.
Next one is 242-1651 Old Salem Village. Continue from July 22nd.
Okay, so we've made some progress here. Hold on, I'm just gonna pull up the as-bills. You have copies in front of you. So to move forward with the order of conditions, we asked the applicant to, like we did for the Meadows, not certify, but basically give the commission a sense of what is and is not in compliance with the order of conditions, so that when we condition the remaining work, we could basically wrap in the old order, but also know exactly what needed to be done. So there's a compliance letter in your packets from Hayes Engineering. We have an as-built plan of everything that's constructed on site. And there's a list of deviations in there. And then I've sort of summarized for you as well in your notes about what needs to be done. Mostly that there's remaining units to be constructed, there's some roadway work to be done. We noted just yesterday, today, that there's some fencing that still needs to be installed, which I included when I drafted the order. There's some deviations in the stormwater management plan, so I put that, if anything needed to be corrected there, that they could do that as well. But for the most part, it's just unit construction, final landscaping, and roadway.
Well, this one's been before us in the past several months, and I know we've been arguing over procedural things, and And I know what I think we're jointly striving for is the project to be completed within compliance with our original order of conditions and the order that we're anticipating issuing in the near future. I'm in favor of, I think that goal is the goal we have to shoot for, and that is to bring this entire subdivision into compliance, to the letter of the orders. At this point, we've got some things that are non-compliant, and I guess it's more of a question than a comment, is what we're proposing now a clear path to getting into compliance for the original order and the proposed work that the applicant is asking for?
Well, I guess if you want to talk about non-compliant and compliant, the stormwater system is slightly smaller than was previous. That was actually reported to the commission, or should have been reported to the commission. You may have been without an agent, but in 2007, there's a letter in the file and calculations saying that the pond was constructed smaller. It was before I came. It doesn't appear to ever have been reviewed or acted on. That said, the system's been in for a long time. There aren't any issues. There's no flooding or overflowing or, observing it overtopping or anything like that. So, and the calculations are there from the applicant. If you'd like to have those reviewed, that was something the chair and I talked about today. The applicants are willing to do that. A lot of the structures were built somewhat larger or have more extensive decks. There are no actual violations, no encroachments of the 50-foot no-build zone. There were infiltrators added to all of the lots. Some of the infiltrators were shown and were originally shown. I guess one of my concerns going forward is the other infiltrators should probably be located on the plan at some point, but that's not an issue of compliance. It's just more of an issue of an as-built. There's some, again, we noted there were some places where the fencing hasn't been installed. That certainly could be done under the new order. I know the applicant has some areas where he would probably propose not to put some fencing, but those are outside of the buffer zone.
Okay, and that's a good summary of the I guess I should term them deviations. Most of them are deviations from the original order, and those can be corrected under the new order, as I understand it. I guess my main concern on this is the stormwater management system, the concerns raised in the past, and I, for one, think it's a good idea to, have a third-party review to make sure that the system as constructed will be adequate to work on this subdivision, because we all know the bad things that happen when it doesn't work. And really, my secondary issue is just to create a method for the applicant to bring these deviations into compliance with the original order, those that are non-compliant right now, and I for one would be happy with that outcome.
I don't think there's any proposal, outside of correcting some minor roadway alignment things, there is no proposal to correct anything, just finish the project, basically, unless there was some reason that there needed to be something done for the stormwater management.
Roadway alignment issues that need to be addressed by a
Right.
new order.
No, they have to top coat the roadway, and they noticed some areas where the pavement went more one way than another, so they'll fix that when
That'll
they,
be resolved.
right.
Great, yeah. I'm all set.
I concur with Jack. We had some discussions with Jen today about what was going on in the pond is, and I don't know if she emailed you or not. I think at some point we should get at least the pond certified that it's going to function. It is smaller, bigger, or whatever it is. Probably beforehand. I mean, I want to move forward because I know you want to get your project done, and we'd like to get it off the table. I just like to make sure that maybe gets looked at moving forward before you complete, just to make sure that it functions.
We agree, Jen, that we will have
Lisa, yeah,
do a peer review
that's fine.
of the calculations on that.
That's fine. Like I said, you've been working with us pretty good as far as changes and decks, and I know it looks kind of, with the small plan, I looked at the big plan today, and I know you moved a lot of stuff, but it's just small decks and stuff. Everything stayed out of the 50. I don't have a problem with that. Jen's highlighting the infiltrators, but all that stuff can be incorporated with the new water. Just so we did the same thing with Meadows because their phase one program, phase one build was kind of I shouldn't say messed up, it's not a good word, but I mean, it just was different than the plan. So we made sure that we incorporated their phases with one, so when it got cleaned up, it all got cleaned up at once. So this way, when you're done, everything will tie in, and we make it go away. So I'm as long as you're working with Jen and stuff, that I have no problem, and that's the only questions that I have. Thank you.
So I assume that we'll have a peer review done before we issue a new order of conditions.
I don't think we need to.
I think we can do it simultaneously, because I've drafted the order, and I've included that, it's not like we're giving them a certificate of compliance on anything. We're just rolling it all into the new order. So the new order allows them to correct any deviations that may be necessary to the stormwater management system. So it's
So
not,
there's a condition in there that allows that work to be done if it proves to be necessary?
right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'm only recommending to at least get it peer reviewed now, before they get into it again, and then they go for the COC, and then they find
To
out.
get it done, it's just to make sure that there are no issues.
Right.
Doesn't appear to be issues with it, but
Right, it's functioning. but-
if for some reason that the peer reviewer has concerns that need to be addressed, then we should, have an opportunity
Right.
to work those out before the applicant is given a, free to roam, so to speak.
Yeah, I just don't like this, I'd rather see it done in the 5th inning than the 9th inning, but that's his choice.
We should have it done sooner than later.
Right.
I think
He's willing.
Mr. Osgood's agreed to do it
He's already-
immediately.
Thanks, Ben. Yep.
Right.
Jen, there is a shed on the property that has not been approved?
Two of the sheds have been approved. It was noted that the one that's out there that was picked up on the plan is actually one of those Rubbermaid movable type deals. So it's outside the 50, and it's not on any kind of footing or anything like that. It could just be picked up and moved. I didn't realize it was that kind of shed.
Okay. Thank you.
That's not an issue.
It's only 2 feet. Do you have any more questions? Okay, motion?
So the motion would be to close and issue the new order of conditions, wrapping the old order into the new order, so no conditions get lost by issuing a new order, and that the COC upon completion would be issued under both orders simultaneously.
Okay, do we have the old order number, or is this the old order number?
The old order is 1337, and as you'll see, it's referenced throughout the new order.
Okay. So do we have to incorporate that in the motion?
I think close and issue is the motion.
Okay.
We can discuss the order.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Well said. Okay, I had a continuance that I didn't see. 242-1656, 95 Olcott Way, request to continue till August 26th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1655 Boxford Street.
So this continued at the last hearing because it was being reviewed by the planning board as well as Natural Heritage. So Natural Heritage actually issued their letter stating that as far as the Wetlands Protection Act review is concerned, there would be no adverse impact, and the project is, as proposed, is fine to condition and issue. Under MISA review, they required additional information, and I think as from Phil's conversation with them today, that's largely due to construction starting this fall and to a plan of how they would address migrating turtles. Is that the?
Yes. For the record, Phil Christensen. I've been working with a gentleman, Jesse Leddick, at Natural Heritage, and this area, the wetland area on site, is just they overwinter in the swamp south of there. So this is a foraging habitat for the turtles. That's what they think, anyway. So they're active until about mid-October. So their concern is if the project starts before mid-October, that certain measures have to be put in place to protect the turtles. For instance, if you put in the hay bales and the turtles happen to be in the upland and they get trapped behind the hay bales, they can't get through them. So you would have to put together a turtle monitoring program and walk the hay bales every day and pick the turtles up and put them on the other side or things like that, and just to be sure they're out of the way of construction. If in fact if we start later in the fall, then we don't have to do any of that. So I told Mr. Leddick that, look, depending on when the boards issue their approvals and the appeal periods are over, then we'll have a better sense when we're starting. But we'll put together a plan for them, this turtle management plan, that if we start early, we'll be able to do what they want us to do with the turtles.
So I would think our order would probably just need to contain some kind of condition that until they have their final approval from MISA, they wouldn't be able to start work or something like that.
Is there a date on the spring end of things too? Like, would it be mid-October to March 15th, mid-March?
It's later.
Yeah.
Or like end of April, early May. But that's the kind of thing we'll find out.
Yeah, we should have the whole range.
So,
Any more questions?
I also wrote up, I forgot to mention, you had concerns at the last meeting about the open space and what the planning board might want to consider. So they asked for our input, so I drafted a memo that just kind of highlighted the things that we discussed at the last meeting. So if you want to take a look at that and let me know if that captures everything, I'll forward that to them as well.
I did read it. I thought that was perfect.
Okay, and then I did mention to the applicant that you wanted to see the vernal pools certified, and that we would likely condition that, just so he would be aware. And of course, that would happen post-construction, or prior to the certificate of compliance, but not pre-construction, just given the time of year. It wouldn't be the right time of year to do that.
You all set, Jack?
No.
just a question on that. In certifying the vernal pools, do you want the applicant to do that work, or is it something the town does?
No, typically, we have the applicant do it. And, you can only certify them if they're certifiable.
Right.
It's not like you can, they would still remain potential ephemeral pools, but they, the criteria for certifications changed and is a little bit steeper, and they, you never know on any given year whether, we would probably expect you to try more than once to do it, given that they can be, the things can change from year to year.
But as far as the project goes, the vernal pools, it wouldn't affect the project as
We've already
proposed.
put the buffer zone
Right.
on the entire project as being ephemeral pool habitat, so
Right.
it doesn't really change anything as far as the project goes.
Are the potential vernal pools ephemeral pools, are they within the proposed conservation restriction?
Well, there isn't a proposed restriction, but they're in the proposed open space
Proposed open?
as part of the planned residential subdivision.
And
Yeah.
there's no restriction on that, okay. I guess my other question is, I was reading through the comments, the response to Ms. Eggleston's stormwater management parts, and it looked to me like, all the issues weren't quite resolved yet.
So there were two subsequent emails. I might have forwarded you one, but one came in at 2 o'clock today, and it says, I've received and reviewed the 810 revisions on this project, and it looks good. The only concern I have is that the detail for the infiltration, oh no, that was resolved too, the bank run gravel. She asked for some filter fabric to be removed, and that concern was addressed in a new sheet given. And then there was a final email today, which doesn't seem to have made it into here, where she basically said all her concerns had been addressed, and then there was something about sequencing or something. Oh, here, is this it? Yep. Just letting you know that the 810 revisions with the revised sheet 14 that Phil Christensen emailed today satisfactorily addresses my 729 comments on this project. Per my previous comment number 15, I do recommend that some means of protecting the inside edge of pavement within the cul-de-sac be added to the design. That's out of our jurisdiction, although I concur that it should be a solution that is acceptable to both the planning board and DPW. So that was the final comment today.
Is Lisa doing a review for planning too?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, I'm sure they'll address that when you go before them. Jack, any more questions?
So she had enough test pits done and everything? All right. Seemed like that was, I'm good.
Okay.
She's good.
Well, I read that letter today, and it looked pretty ominous when I saw it, shut down everything.
I'm like, I thought everything was going well.
Yeah, don't do anything, and Jen's going, oh, they already dug test pits, and they did some land clearing. I'm like,
I
oh,
thought,
boy.
I thought they were going off on something else.
Yeah, I thought
entirely.
the Gestapo was gonna be out
Asking
there
for
putting fence up.
photos, and I'm like, what are they concerned about?
Well, the only thing I have, Phil, a question, and like I said, normally, I don't like to approve things unless we had get a clear bill from Natural Heritage or DEP and all that stuff. I don't have a problem with the project. Lisa's reviews are fine, so I don't have any questions on it. It's just that, to me, I like to have them in the fold. So you're going before planning. So once you get approved by them.
Planning next week.
Okay, so if we continue to the next meeting, that's not going to mess you up? Because
No.
you wouldn't do till October anyways, even at the earliest.
Right.
Okay, so that's my recommendation, but whatever the commission, or if that doesn't work
But,
for you.
just that issue on the natural heritage is, we're still going to be working with them on an ongoing basis, so that won't be wrapped up. That should be clear.
They just have to give you permission to start work. Once they've done that and you've given that to us, then we're not gonna,
No, what I'm saying is, just as far as the order, issuance of the order goes,
right, you're wrapped up from a wetlands protection standpoint with them.
okay.
But,
Yeah,
I guess,
I don't have an issue with the project. I mean,
Okay.
if that wasn't up, I'd make a motion to, have them make a motion to approve.
Okay.
My thing is just to make sure that that's all tied in, so we don't.
Yeah,
You have to come back, so that's my only concern, so my recommendation would be to continue, but that's up to you, but we have to hear from the other commissioners. No questions. Deb?
I can also, just to keep things in line, and if everything came through for the next meeting, if there are no concerns and there are no changes, I can have it drafted and we can close an issue, which would be the same way
That
it
would
would
be good,
happen
yeah.
anyway.
Right, as long as planning is,
Right.
you think you're going to be finished with planning next meeting?
that's what we've heard.
That's what I've heard from the planner as well, so.
Okay. All right.
Good.
So we need a motion to continue.
I move that we continue to August 26th.
That'd be a second.
Second.
What are you doing to me? All those in favor say aye.
I don't even know what state.
Opposed?
She's been in Rhode Island, too.
Is that how they do it? That must how they do it in
You're in
Rhode
a state
Island.
of confusion.
You do a double motion in a second. It's like a football game.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Okay. Next one is, let's see if we have any continuances here. No. Okay, 242, 1612, 245 Boxford Street.
So Heidi reviewed this one. I've been out there too, since they've taken off the erosion controls. And I believe all is in order and it can get a COC.
No questions here.
Doug,
No questions?
Deb,
All set.
motion?
Move that we issue the certificate of compliance for 242, 1612, 245 Boxford Street.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. And the next one, all right, we'll do this. 242, 1601, POC request for 19-21 Katuitt Street.
Okay, so Lou asked me to have a conversation with Mr. Burke, who was in the audience earlier. Katuitt Street, we gave a partial certificate of compliance to Lot 1 of that project so that a new order could issue and it could be constructed, that a new unit could be constructed. There were two parcels, one's on Layden Street, the other's on Katuitt. The Katuitt one, they applied for a PCOC for this meeting, and then when they found out that the owners of that place needed to be part of the homeowners association that had been established for the prior 4 units on Katuitt, he said he was going to withdraw the certificate of compliance, and I'm thinking, that's going to put those homeowners in a lurch, right? Because they're not going to have a certificate of compliance if they go to sell. And largely, everything was in compliance, so it seemed to not do that for that purpose. So I went back to see what we had done when we issued the partial, and we had issued an enforcement order mostly for the means to get the work done, that there were some outstanding stormwater management issues that needed to be done, and the homeowners association needed to be set up. So in just speaking to Mr. Burke, he said that the homeowners association had been set up, or he thought it had been, but it only included those 4. So I don't see why we can't get everybody involved. And I guess he said he would get back to me and let me know the status of everything. We had issued an enforcement order, it had a deadline date, and it appears that not everything, or at least not everything, was reported back to us by the deadline. So if need be, we could issue a further enforcement order. I think we start off maybe with just a letter informing the parties involved what needs to be done, what wasn't complete, please get up to date with what was completed, what isn't completed, and how we're going to resolve this issue. Because at this point, I think the best thing to do is get it wrapped up and get these people their certificates of compliance so they can move forward should anybody want to sell. Or, because if we let it go on and the developers aren't exactly walking away, but if they were to, get away from us, then it's going to leave the homeowners in a lurch. So I guess at this point, I would take no action, and we'll wait to see what I can get done by the next meeting, or we can continue, I
Yeah,
guess.
I would probably just continue it instead of taking no action. And then if Mr. Burke doesn't come through with the homeowners thing, we're gonna have to reinforce the enforcement order.
Right. Can always have that option.
Absolutely. Any questions?
Yeah, I think that's perfect approach.
Okay. Doug, any questions? No. Deb?
All set.
Okay, motion to continue?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Next one is 242 1431 1 Pond Street.
So this is just a request to extend the order for 1 year. I've been out to the site, everything's in compliance. He still has a deck to build, potentially a garage to build, although he may not get to that. The site's stabilized, some of the erosion controls have been removed, the septic system's in, the driveway's paved, the retaining walls are built. So it's coming along nicely, but not quite there yet.
Question?
As long as they're moving along, I'm good with this.
Doug?
Okay with this.
All set.
Motion?
Move that we issue a one-year extension for 242-1431 One Pond Street.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Next one is, yeah, it's Molly Town. I'm just curious, we'll just do one at a time, doesn't matter. 242-1636, a modification request for 90 Molly Town Road, Lot 15A.
So when both 15 and 16, these are going to be pretty much the same, although there's a slight change on 16. The decks were proposed open air. They'd now like to enclose a portion of the deck. And they slightly modified the stairs. You can see that on your, I might have pulled up the, not instead of the overlay, I pulled up the, you can see on these where the screen porch has been added, the decks have been expanded and there's stairs coming down now.
You notice the deck's a little smaller.
Right, but larger in the sense that it includes the screen porch
It
too.
includes the screen porch on that end. It's shorter, but it's got the screen porch behind it. And there's a little bump out there towards the
Right,
back.
so you can move the stairs out and down, right? So I'd say the reason we called them modifications was because they're an expansion of the footprint slightly.
Jeff?
I have no comments, no questions.
Phil, with the proposed deck with the enclosure on the roof, will the roof drain dry well be able to take that water?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're oversized to start with. So it's a very, you can see by the size of the roof, that's a pretty small percentage.
Okay. And the other thing, this is just going to be a screen, not enclosed?
As far as I know, I haven't,
Because it's
I
gonna-
just know of it as a screened porch.
Okay, because it's
They're
going to...
three-season, I mean, they didn't propose whether it would be screens or walls, but they're not heated, full year-round structures, according to the plan.
Yeah, the plan says screen porch. It's here.
That says proposed screen porch. Okay. My only concern with these is what happens is they all of a sudden end up being additions.
And then they need another screen porch.
Well, you only got so much room inside the 50 there.
And,
It's an amazing big, the limited area they have
I
to
know,
work
it's
with.
such a small house,
Yeah.
It's a cottage. Doug?
No questions.
Deb?
All set.
Motion?
I move that we approve the modification request for 242-1636, 90 Molly Town Road, Lot 15A.
Second.
So on a side note,
As requested.
can we condition it that it stay a screen and porch and not become an addition? Not that this doesn't matter, because the roof is the roof.
I'd say no, because it's not going to be in the order. You know what I'm saying? You can't make it a continuing condition if it's not in the order. You'd have to amend the order. I mean, you could say it, but it'd be tough to uphold.
Well, can we put it like Phil says? It's a screened in now, then you make an enclosure, next thing you know, they're coming for a...
I
For a screened in.
would advise against it because they only have so much room on this lot outside of the 50 to be, if they wanted to expand it. If someone came to us for an addition on their house outside the 50, we'd approve it. I mean, I could see if they were bumping up against really close to one of the resource areas or something, we might, but
This one's a little different. Okay, I'm all set. Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1637.
so the
100
exact same thing. Except on this one, they're proposing to move the infiltrator closer to the house. So they submitted a revised plan today that, if you look at the one in your packets, or maybe there's two in your packets, I'm not sure. The roof infiltrator was previously way back on the lot, and they're bringing it up closer to the house. I don't know, Phil, if you have any reasoning beyond for that, but
I don't know, I think they might be thinking that in the future,
Oh,
somebody
pool.
wants to do something in the back.
right, someone
They'd
may
have
want
room,
a
but
pool in their backyard.
They're pretty limited anyway.
Okay. Questions, yeah?
No, no questions.
Doug? Deb? Motion?
I move that we approve the modification request for 242-1636, 90 Molly Town Road. I'm sorry, 242-1637, 100 Molly Town Road, Lot 16, as requested.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, next order of business is the election of officers. First off, I'd just like to say I want to thank the commission for appointing me chairman again. I thank you for your confidence in me, and I really enjoy doing what I'm doing. But while I'm at it, I wouldn't be able to do it the way I do it, because without the staff, Deb, Heidi, and Jennifer do an outstanding job, and they make my life very easy. Donna, what'd I say? Deb.
You too, Deb.
You too, Deb. I'm looking at you and I'm thinking Donna.
Yeah.
So,
The resemblance is pretty strong.
they do a really, really great job, and I told Jen before, the day she leaves, I'm right behind her. So I just like to let the public know that we have an outstanding staff that deserve a lot of credit, and they do a lot of hard work. So with that being said, election of the vice chairman, and Doug has been very good vice chair, but there was some interest, and Doug was willing to step aside to let Al Manzi become vice chair. So I've nominated Al Manzi as the vice chair for the Conservation Commission.
I second
All those in favor say aye.
that. Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. And thank you again, Doug.
An abstention. Maybe he didn't really want to be chair, vice chair. Oh, and just go on and continue those bylaw regulations. We'll get to them some year.
I like it, maybe this, well, at least she's smiling, it's not a frown yet.
Oh, I want to get it done, but right now we're working on wrapping up the open space plan and doing a report on the grant we got for last year.
Okay, next one is,
So we just need to continue that to, why don't we continue that till the second September meeting, and then maybe we'll have a chance to get to it.
to 9:23, Donna?
Yep.
Request to continue to 9:23.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. And next one is the approval for the conservation restriction on Half Mile Hill, Sunny Ridge, Usla.
In Usler. So these properties were all acquired with CPA funds, and there's a requirement in CPA that they all have conservation restrictions on them. Half Mile Hill does have a conservation restriction on it. We've been working on this restriction. The state has approved it. I don't know who I originally had the conversation, maybe even been with Jack originally, that Essex County Greenbelt will hold these restrictions. TTOR holds the Half Mile Hill one, but they weren't interested in taking any more restrictions, so Essex County Greenbelt will hold these restrictions. They've been involved in the drafting. It's been through town council, it's been through the state, and all it needs is your signatures.
Okay.
So it vote to approve accept as drafted and sign, basically.
Okay, need a motion?
Just one question. The Sunny Ridge didn't already have one? It didn't? Wow.
didn't.
Okay. How did we miss that?
I know, and we went back and looked everywhere in deeds and everything. There's a little inholding that I think belongs to the house that has a restriction. That may be what, because I thought I found something in the files too, but it's that, not the parcel itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was-
not the town's parcel.
Can't expand it, right, Jeff?
I just remember it differently, but we'll get it with this, so I'm fine.
Okay, motion.
I move we approve the conservation restrictions for the Half Mile Hill, Sunny Ridge, and Usler parcels as drafted.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Okay, we have a decision to do.
Oh, yeah, I don't have the decision on my
24216,
recommendation, so,
51.
well, I don't have a copy either. Oh, I do have a copy. So there, since he got everything in today, I kind of hastily drafted this and Heidi reviewed it. It is based almost 100% on the order of conditions for the meadows, but bringing in a lot of the conditions that were in the original Old Salem Village. The language in the first 3 conditions was drafted by Sean, or reviewed by Sean for the meadows. So it basically, number 1, the order of conditions is issued in addition to the previously issued for this project. The new order is necessary due to the expiration and not all jurisdictional work has been completed. Number 21 adopts basically and incorporates all of 1337. The remaining work is addressed in the next condition. It says no portion of this new order shall exempt the applicant from fully complying with all aspects of the old order. I cited the new plans submitted. Mostly, I didn't go back and cite all the old plans, although I did cite the compliance information in other correspondence. So everything they've submitted to us for as-built is cited in other correspondence. We did put in the last order in condition 31 that if approved for issuance at that time, only one COC shall issue covering both orders. I guess we said that for the last one. I don't know logistically how that's going to work out, if you can cite 2 orders on one COC.
Well, we decided that, well, based on what, on Sean's opening thing, we combine the 2 numbers together as one project. I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be approved as
Yeah,
one.
I suppose if we had to issue 2, we issued 2. I'm just wondering DEP-wise if if somehow that would create a problem. I don't know that we thought about that in the Meadows back in 2010, but I thought about it this time around. You know, or if the one COC would clear both titles, like for people who looked it up, I guess it would depend on, you'd have to record it against both orders anyway. You'd still have to, you could have one order maybe, but you'd have to record it twice, right, in order to clear both orders?
You'd have to make sure it's connects the both, because otherwise attorneys, being what they are, will end up not getting the, recognizing that there are 2 numbers on there.
Right, well, this was drafted by an attorney, so I was kind of hoping he had thought of that, but.
Good luck.
I know, I know that's.
So I did keep a lot of. So I did note that the operation and maintenance plan was revised post you guys issuing the order, and it said on the top of it should be recorded. I don't know that it ever was, so I required it again in this order that it get recorded. And that's condition both 42 and 47. It was in the last order, too, specifically requiring it to be recorded. 51 just cites that we already hold the bonds. We released half, but we hold half plus interest, which is somewhere around $33,000 right now. So I think we hold plenty of bond.
We released that?
We did, because he did go through a compliance review on some of the stormwater back in 2010. He did an as-built comparison of what was built then at that point to what was proposed, and Lisa signed off on that. It didn't review everything, but but it got him back half his bond, which was what he was asking for.
Okay, so the stormwater management for the project has already been built, right?
It's been built, it's all built,
It's all built.
all built, all
But
stabilized,
we
functioning.
still got 30 grand.
We still have over half the bond, yeah.
Okay.
So we're retaining, what, 27.5 as bond
Plus,
for,
plus
We already
interest.
have it, we're not changing anything.
but the interest we return to them.
We didn't return it to them,
No,
we still
gave him
hold
half
it.
the one.
It's 33,000.
We gave him 27.5, the original 55, but we didn't give him the interest. So it's 30 how many?
33,000
So we still have 33,000 of his money.
the interest.
We don't cite the interest, though, that's just a, tracking for banking purposes. The bond itself is,
Looks like we by condition 51, we provided a check in the amount of 55,000.
we were provided, has been provided a check in the amount of 55,000, and then I noted 25,000 in accrued interest remain after a prior bond release.
It wasn't.
So we have 33.
Yeah.
Or maybe it should say was provided a check. It's the language. So 52 requires staking of the units as was required in the prior order. 55 is the markers, although he bought the markers, I just want to make sure he gets them installed prior to this happening. 56, he needs to provide me with evidence of maintenance of the stormwater system, because that was supposed to be supplied on a yearly basis, and we haven't seen it in a couple of years. So we need to get that, and he's aware of that. I put in that we'd hold another pre-construction conference, but, basically, we've been out there a bunch, and if he's ready to start the next unit, we'll just do a pre-construction at the next proposed unit. All of the stormwater management conditions I just pulled in from the old order.
On that pond not being big enough, potentially not being big enough, and we're going to allow them to make the changes based on the recommendations of the third-party reviewer. Do we want to limit that at all? Because it's unknown.
Limit what?
Well, limit their actions, the actions that they can take. Like, for instance, they could expand the size of the pond, and that's the only action that we'll allow.
I don't think so, because I don't want to, I don't know what Lisa's going to propose, if anything's even going to be required.
Their argument is that it's working fine, there are no issues.
Well, and Peter Ogren, the engineer, ran the calculations, and though there's not as much volume that was provided for, it still contains each of the storms.
Well, that's what I mean.
Right.
So it's functioning as originally intended to function. And it was handling the stormwater flows that exist. It's meeting its intended purpose. And if Lisa reviews it and confirms, yes, it does meet its, then you don't need to do anything to it.
Yeah, but it's functioning.
But if she says, no, it's not functioning, or he didn't make the calculations correctly, or forgot something, or didn't use the correct formula or coefficients or whatever, and it says it needs to be made larger, then they would need to conform to those requirements, whatever they may be.
Right, because, right
And
now.
that's why I originally wanted to have the
I
review first.
just wanted to suggest it, because
No,
it
because-
seemed like the size of the pond was the issue.
But it
And
went deeper.
They had-
It's deeper than the
it
site.
is deeper.
Right, but it's functioning now, but we don't have all the houses and the
Well,
roof
yeah,
drains and all
the demand is going to
infiltrators.
increase.
Well, I mean, that's
The
true.
calculations are based on the proposed build-out, though, not the current build-out.
Right, but a lot of the original design is based on the roof drains the roof areas that were originally designed, but that's changed.
Right.
The roofs have changed.
Well, that's an interesting point. So
Well,
I will
it's
make sure,
changed slightly.
right,
But the point is, they've added in-ground infiltrators supposedly to handle any excess.
right, they've added the infiltration.
The whole thing is,
to
it
each
should be reviewed in total
Right.
to see whether it, as it's built, as it exists, does it meet requirements? In other words, does it function to handle the stormwater flows?
Right.
If it does, fine. Nothing further needs to be done. If it doesn't, then I'd be interested to see what Lisa would recommend be done.
lot. Right, and there
And
is,
then we need to have a discussion over that. If it's minor modifications, then we can approve it as a,
Well, he's acknowledged.
but supposedly any changes to that are included in the order.
right, so I did say, I said, in any modifications required to the stormwater management system as deviations to the proposed plan do exist.
So, hopefully we will know what those modifications are beforehand and have an opportunity to comment on it.
And it does say compliance with the design stormwater management system and associated stormwater management conditions shall be satisfied prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance. So we're not closing this out unless they've done it.
The only, back to the bond, Jen. It doesn't reference the new order. It has the old number, not the new one.
No, it says, it said money has been conditioned on the completion of all conditions in this OOC. I could cite the number, and those in 242-1337.
Yeah,
It says both.
right. But it wouldn't hurt to put the number in there.
Yep, I will do that.
Okay. Because both could be. Any other questions? Okay, motion?
I move that we approve the order of conditions for 242-1651 as drafted and amended.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say